within the service level, the time agreed on by that department.
We're going to hear from your representative, who will also give us a few remarks in less than 5 minutes. And then once he's done, we'll see your performance. So get ready, embrace yourself, whether you're going to start from there and come through. Let us know how much space you want.
One Young Africa, we say yes to one Africa market. Thank you.
Well, the AfCFTA is a tool, we could say, that looks to see how Africa could unite economically, socially, politically. So it's a grand aspiration. And MSTCDC, as a Pan-African organization, we're always also looking to see how is it possible to be able to bring all these ideas, all these challenges into one place and discussion at the forefront of people, so that we are moving together towards this continental aspiration. Now, when it comes to inclusivity, what we're talking about usually is around youth, women, marginalized communities, like the disabled, and you name it, people in rural areas. And for TCDC, MSTCDC, that's a very important aspect in terms of how do we bring them also across the journey. So you might know that MSTCDC is part of the ActionAid family, and ActionAid is within 45 countries around the world. And one of the primary areas we look at is women's rights. Now, it's also central to us in terms of seeing how within our programming, we're always looking to see that girls' and women's rights are at the forefront of discussion, that they have access to spaces of leadership, to spaces of service. So, it's important. And as well, when we look at youth, we have a very good and big youth program called the Youth Leadership Program, where we see again how we can also engage youth in matters of business and trade, but as well of leadership and being able to have their voice in decisions that affect them otherwise. So when we bring these two elements together, it's a natural maybe combination, in that we want also a continent where we're recognizing that our youth are the largest population. They need to be at the table for these discussions, for this aspiration to come to fruition. Women are also center to trade, especially when you talk about small traders across borders and things to that effect. You find that it's women who are there working every day and making the small trades. But how do we also engage them and ensure they're benefiting better, and not also leaving them at maybe a small trade scale, but also to elevate them to become big international or cross-transborder traders?
So the project indeed was an idea coming out of conversations between us and colleagues in different sectors, particularly at the continental level players. And when we began thinking around the idea of the AfCFTA Youth Inclusion Accelerator Project, we thought that there is need for a baseline. There are three main findings. First, youth, yes, had heard about the AfCFTA, but only on the internet. And they confessed that they had not been involved or got engaged in the process before. And therefore, they would say, we have heard about the AfCFTA, but we don't know it. Do you think this CFTA is yours? They said, we cannot say it is ours, because we see that the structures, the formality of the AfCFTA, its framework are extremely up here, and for us we are low here. We also realize that they have not had very good experiences with the regional economic communities, and they were not so optimistic about then this continental huge thing and how it will reach them, since they are very informal and little or very less on capacity at farm level as well as individual level, in terms of if this agreement is going to be good for exporting businesses. We are not able to export at this stage, and therefore how does this agreement become ours? And lastly, there was also discovery that there isn't enough data on the process and how youth have been involved so far, and therefore we could not find any information on whether youth members of parliament, for example, or even national youth councils where they exist, or any other youth structures, if they were engaged in this process of negotiation, consultation, and whatever is going on now in the CFTA, even in the second phase of negotiations. And in order to address this gap of footprint of youth in the process, one of the major recommendations and outcomes of the study is that there should be an annual AfCFTA Youth Inclusion Index to measure how youth are participating, how their knowledge and interest levels are growing as the CFTA implementation goes along, so that also policymakers, government partners, and private sector can see where the gaps are every year and how to best address these gaps.
The project has been going on well in regard to implementation, especially me as a project coordinator of this Youth Inclusion Accelerator project. In regard to CFTA, we started with regional consultation in January, between January, where we have been having youth perspectives on CFTA, the extent to which youth were involved in the initial stages of CFTA negotiation and consultations. And these perspectives, youth perspectives, informed our further engagements with policymakers, especially the government and other stakeholders. Also we had also the virtual consultation on one African market, the youth, the one African market the youth want. And it was amazing hearing the African market they want, the African market with less barriers, which is borderless, which is inclusive, especially for youth and women. And of course, we discovered that there was urge for more information.
And therefore, we had to find the young people where they are. They are on TikTok, they are on Instagram, they're on Facebook and Twitter. And this has really helped us to not only roll out the project initiatives, but also reach them where they are and allow them from all the 55 countries of Africa to participate actively in the project. For example, when we were rolling out the essay and debate competitions, we relied heavily on social media, and the response has been overwhelming. We could see on WhatsApp people sharing the call for proposals, the call for debaters to come in, and so we have really relied on these tools to bring in engagement from young people from across the 55 countries. Secondly, when we were also rolling out the continental study, we had to depend on social media tools. We believe it is not only the first time that we have had a continental study have input from 55 countries of Africa, but also actively had them engage in debate competitions, in essays, and also we believe next year, as we roll out even more initiatives of the project, social media and virtual tools will play a key role in the project implementation.
Tusonga mbele mama Afrika, Afrika.
Hello one and all, welcome to this evening's YouLead Unplugged. My name is Fiona Kemejisha and I am the Digital Comms Lead at YouLead Africa. I will not be taking you through this particular session. We have a guest moderator and some very special guests who are joining us for a conversation on AfCFTA youth inclusion, specifically on the protocol for women and youth. Please go ahead and send the link to your friends, your colleagues, so we can have a good audience going, and so this message isn't falling on just a few, but we can share it with a number of people out there. So please take a second and share it with your friends and colleagues so that they can join us. But let's move on. In the meantime, I'm going to invite my colleague Kanyesi J. Moses to take over the moderation of this session. Welcome once again, and also feel free to leave your name, your country, your organization in the comment box so that we can get to know you and connect with you. Moses, please go ahead.
Thank you, Fiona. I hope you can hear me. Thank you for this, organizing this conversation. Thank you to our participants who have spared your time to be with us. Allow me to say good evening and good afternoon wherever you are tuned from. I know some are in Central, all of Africa, West Africa. It's still in the afternoon, Central Africa. Others are from Europe, others from East Africa. Thank you for joining us when we are going to talk about the relevance of CFTA protocol on women and youth in cross-border trade. And I know we have people who are also watching us live streaming from wherever you are. Allow me to introduce our key speakers today. Me, I will not speak a lot, but we have our key speakers who have agreed and spared time to be with us and who are versed in on the subject matter. Allow me to, before here, and the relevance of a CFTA protocol on women and youth in cross-border trade. As you are aware, the CFTA agreement was signed in 2018 in Kigali, Rwanda, and by our heads of state, the African heads of state. 54 out of 55 countries have signed, and more than 30 countries have ratified. And the trading under the CFTA started in 2021 January. And negotiations have been going on, like protocols on trading services, others intellectual property that is going on, and also the heads of state informed and allowed and directed the Secretariat in Ghana to start preparing the negotiation of youth and women so that it can capture the key issues that women and youth in trade, having, of course, in mind that they are the 80 or 70% of the population. So recognizing the incremental role of youth to harness the opportunities of the CFTA and the CFTA Secretariat, the African Union and its members have further initiated a committee on women and youth in trade to ensure proper and meaningful inclusion of women and youth as the phase 2 of negotiation of the CFTA, which are about to commence. In the same lines, and a CFTA protocol on youth are to be included in CFTA negotiation. So why we are here is to know why is this phase 2 why should it include the youth and women protocol? Allow me to introduce our distinguished guests that will be talking to us. I have a honor to introduce Mr. John Bosco Karisa. John Bosco Karisa is the Executive Director of East African Business Council, an umbrella of all national apex bodies in the 7 East African countries. And also John Bosco is a former country director for Trademark East Africa, representing Republic of South Sudan, and also a former manager for policy and trade facilitation for East Africa in TMEA, TMEA East Africa. And he has depth understanding and qualified in disciplines of economics, international trade policy, negotiation, and law. Mr. Executive Director, you are most welcome.
Good evening, everyone, the viewers, the participants. Thank you very much, Moses, for that excellent introduction. And I'm happy, excited to join this interesting conversation, talking about the youth and the women involvement in the continental free trade area. So I'm very excited again, as introduced, to share my insight in terms of why this protocol is very crucial and very important in the negotiation and in the implementation of the continental free trade area.
Thank you, sir, Mr. Executive Director, for sparing your time to be with us. Another guest, allow me to introduce Nandi Mukwanazi. Is the founder of Nanloy Organic Farm. Nandi is tuning in from South Africa. She's an award-winning entrepreneur and a farmer. She's invested in changing the African narrative in the areas of food, security, climate change, and solution-based education. She's one of the 20 South African farmers selected as an ecological organic agriculture coordinator project. The project aims to scale up adoption of organic farming practices in SADC region and to unify local organic initiatives. In 2019, she launched a program called the Ayanda Organic Home and School Gardens. The training program teaches the beneficiaries the entire process of food production and the skill of growing their own organic food with a focus on indigenous crops and vegetables. She has been named as one of the Male and Guardians 200 Young South Africans for 2022 as a member of the African Women Agribusiness Network. She is working to advance the agenda of women and youth in agribusiness and educating youth about the opportunities available through the CFTA, and she uses her project management background to develop and empower communities and to address challenges such as poverty, unemployment, and violence against women and children. Lastly, Nandi, she's a bootcamp graduate opportunity that was presented by YouLead training in CFTA, and also she's a coordinator for Under 40 Africa Under 40 CEOs and Entrepreneurs Network for Southern Region. Nandi, you are most welcome.
Thank you, Moses. Thank you very much for that introduction. Good evening, everybody. As Moses mentioned, I am Nandi Mukwanazi. Unfortunately, I will not be able to share my video today due to the electricity challenges that we're currently having in our country. But I'm very excited to be part of this very important conversation. As a female entrepreneur, you know, it directly affects me. So I'm really excited to hear what other guests have to contribute to our topic. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nanda, and you're most welcome. Lastly, but not least, let me introduce Adam Alkari. Is a multiple awarding winner, journalist and founder of African News Page, a digital news magazine focused on reporting Africa's development. He won the 2018 West Africa Media Excellence and Conference Awards in the SDGs reporting category. In March 2021, he was part of an international team of journalists, media entrepreneurs, and academics from Asia, Latin America, and Africa who participated in Sembra Media, Inflection Point International Research, a global study assessing the impact, threats, and sustainability of independent digital media. Beyond his work as a journalist, he has successfully handled several communication and research consultancies. Also, Adam is the coordinator for Under 40 Africa Entrepreneurs Network for West Africa. Adam, you're most welcome. Adam, you are muted.
Sorry about that, Moses. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me, Moses?
Yes, yes.
Good, good. So thank you for the introduction, and I'm happy to join this call this evening. I'm glad to connect with colleagues, you know, and fellow young people from around the continent, and I hope we are going to really have great discussions, you know, on the role of youth in the whole AfCFTA conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. And lastly, let me welcome everyone that is tuning in from all over the continent and across the globe. Let's start our discussion. I will start with you, Bwana CEO, Mr. John Karisa. I know you have a passion for CFTA and you have been engaged in many activities relating to CFTA on a private sector perspective. So from the private sector perspective, how is this protocol relevant to women and youth in cross-border trade?
Yeah, thank you very much again, Moses. And again, I would like to record my appreciation to YouLead team for organizing this engagement. First of all, it is timely in the sense that when we are talking about the protocol on women and youth in cross-border trade, women and youth constitute the bulk of our trading community. Again, when you look at the statistics, 60% of the traders across the continent will be youth and women. And also looking at the employment level, youth and the women-led businesses almost account for around 415 million, the population. So it means that the CFTA engaging, it is timely to engage women, engage youth in terms of implementation of the CFTA. So as the EABC, we've been spearheading this initiative. Again, currently we are hosting the Youth in the Business Desk. But apart from that, we are also developing an SME portal that will be able to showcase a number of services and products where women and youth are being involved. So we want to continue to champion this initiative. And again, as EAC or as EABC, we are well positioned to ensure that once the protocol, once we have started the negotiation, we need to ensure that the voice, the interests, and the needs of the youth are being integrated. Apart from having a desk, apart from having an SME portal, we've been also engaged in 2 trade facilitation instruments that enables youth to take advantage of the regional markets as well as the continental market. We've been spearheading simplified trade regime instrument. We've worked with other development partners such as, again, Trademark in terms of enhancing and strengthening trade information desk. And currently, we are also engaging Afrexim Bank and other commercial institutions in terms of availing what we call patient capital. Because when you look at some of the daunting challenges that impact our youth, is lack of capital, what I call patient capital, that is a very lenient, that has a long repayment terms. So that is what we are doing. But in addition, or further to that, is the capacity building for the youth. Again, I'm happy that this negotiation is taking place at the right time when we are also rolling out the e-commerce. And the e-commerce protocol is being also developed at the same time with the protocol on youth and women. So it is important that, again, when we talk about CFTA, CFTA will not be complete without involving youth and women. Again, when you look at the past trade agreement, trade liberalization agreement, they neglected the interest of the youth, and that's why they did not achieve their intended objective or purpose, because they had neglected a very special component or a special element, the segment of the society, who are the youth and the women. So that's why now it comes at the right time and recognition that women and youth plays a critical role in driving the CFTA, and the business community are behind that. Where even the ABC, we are no longer looking at the corporates, but we are also looking at the SMEs. That's why we are giving the prominence, the voice, and the needs of SMEs, including youth and women. Over to you, Moses.
Thank you, ED, for your remarks and for answering the question. And I am happy because the CFTA will be driven much by e-commerce, and I'm happy that the East African Business Council has built a portal called my IASO. Actually, I have typed it in the chat box. When you open it and you go to the website, it gives you information if you want anything about CFTA, if you want to upload your business, if you want to interact with others. So make sure that you take advantage of it. Thank you, JB. I just have a follow-up question, and then I can go to other speakers. The follow-up question is about this, specifically the youth and women protocol. The consultations, some development partners have reached us, especially the youth desk and YouLead and other youth-led organizations. They want to hear the views of youth and women before the final protocol is finalized. So tapping from your experience, what should be key asked by youth and women during the negotiation process? Briefly, what should not miss in the final protocol of youth and women? What would you advise those who are giving advice to negotiators that the main catchment area, the main catchment segments, this should not miss in the final women and youth protocol?
Yeah, thank you again, Moses. I think one, that the protocol must be inclusive. That is very critical. It should be all encompassing, meaning that no one should be left behind. No one should be, irrespective of the level of education, the protocol should take all the needs, views, and interests of all the youth. That is very fundamental. Two, the appropriate policies and regulatory framework that are supportive to the youth initiative. That is also very fundamental to look at what are our policies, national regulations. Are they taking into consideration the interests and the needs of the youth? The third component that shouldn't miss is again the instrument, trade-related instrument. As I mentioned, how do we enhance and boost the simplified trade regime as one of the instruments that enables youth and women to trade across borders? The capacity building for the youth is also very, very critical in terms of the protocol. It is also important that we also map out, and that is the data, building evidence-based data collection for the youth, disaggregated data for the youth in which business, in which sectors are they involved, at what level, where do they need support. And again, another thing that is very critical for the youth, again, the youth are very innovative. They have embraced e-commerce. How does the protocol support embrace the e-commerce, these innovative tools that the youth have, and how are you able to scale up those innovative tools? The last that is very important to address some of the challenges that impede youth to participate in trade liberalization is the issue of trade finance, access to finance. So the protocol should also design instruments, trade finance instrument that enables youth access cheaper, affordable finance without using the traditional banking sector. So a special window for youth should be taken into consideration. Lastly, finally, which is very critical, is the youth association. How are the youth being connected? How are they being coordinated? Do they have clubs? Do they have clusters? How are they organized? I know you have taken a proactive step in terms of organizing youth in Africa, but again, a number of the youth are being scattered in different areas. How do we bring them together so that we have a coherence and a coherent framework in terms of understanding where the youth are involved in business, what are the challenges, and what are the opportunities? So those are some of the things that should be embedded within the protocol. Thank you very much, Moses.
Thank you. And I really agree with you on the capacity building for youth and trade finance and youth associations, because we had a rare chance of meeting the Secretary General, His Excellency Wamukere, and his team, and what they were advising is that all youth-led organizations should come under one umbrella body. That means it is easy even to fundraise, and I know also the capacity building that YouLead and development partners has been doing. And actually, we are in the process of bringing the youth association under one umbrella. Thank you. Let me go to Innocent Nandi. As an entrepreneur from Southern Africa, why is this protocol, youth, women protocol, relevant to you as an entrepreneur from South Africa who wants to move your goods to Ghana, to Uganda with less NTBs? And what shouldn't miss in the final protocol? To you, Nandi.
Thank you very much, Moses. The challenges faced by women traders, myself included, within Africa are very systematic and require a well-coordinated effort to resolve. And having a dedicated AfCFTA legal instrument with a specific focus on women and youth, particularly in cross-border trade, is a move in the right direction. I get my seeds from Malawi, Zimbabwe, excuse me, and other SADC regions. And, when I've tried to get seeds from the East, from Tanzania, it was very difficult for me because one of the language barrier, the infrastructure is very poor. So you would find that I would order my seeds 3 to 4 months ahead, but it was still arrive in South Africa, a bit delayed, which means that by the time that I need to grow, I would have missed 3 to 4 weeks of my season. So I think a continent-wide and comprehensive undertaking will make it possible to prioritize the implementation of obligations to assist women traders like myself in a very focused manner. So for me, it will definitely create a wider array of opportunities, as well as other South Africans, because obviously the AfCFTA has given us access to parts of the continent that were not really easily accessible before. So now that we do have, the policy in place, we're able to leverage those opportunities, which of course would lead to great economic empowerment at the regional, national, and continental level, thus ensuring that the development envisioned for Africa is not only inclusive, but is also sustainable. And, as a farmer, it will enable me to participate in high value and high profit products, as opposed to only focusing on low value and low profit products such as fruits and vegetables, which don't have a very long shelf life. So, when I'm looking further into tapping into different parts of the value chain within the agribusiness, the war between Ukraine and Russia has already presented me with an opportunity as a farmer to look at the gaps that exist in creating organic fertilizer, which is a big issue in the continent. So, being able to leverage some of the opportunities that are open by the free trade agreement would mean that I'm able to further the visions that I have for the continent.
Thank you, Nanda. And some, in innovation, some, innovative business persons are always, any bad situation is an opportunity. I know that people who were hit by COVID-19, they had to be innovative. They changed from, let's say, producing something to another. Now, like this Russia and Ukraine has, it is informing us that we can take the competitive and comparative advantages that we have, especially in Africa. Like we can grow those crops that are making the commodities to go high. Let me pose it to the same question to Adam. Adam, as an entrepreneur from Nigeria, why is the protocol, why is the CFTA relevant to you? And specifically, what shouldn't be missed in this final protocol? Then as you answer that also, you can conclude by answering like, as a youth, as a stakeholder, have your country considered you as a stakeholder in any of CFTA negotiation process? To you, Adam.
Thank you very much, Moses. Indeed, there's no doubt about the fact that having a youth and women protocol, or what some of us are even thinking, having a separate protocol, a separate youth protocol and separate women protocol. We don't know to what extent that is going to be feasible, but in even having the two combined, as it is now, is really a huge plus, for the AfCFTA project. Indeed, we often hear that young people are going to be the drivers of this agreement. They are going to make it work, considering our numbers as entrepreneurs in Africa, the population and the population of young people engaged in entrepreneurship around the continent. So I must say that I've always been saying that AfCFTA is one of the greatest things that has happened to Africa since the formation of the Organization of African Unity in 1963, over almost 70 years ago. And I feel for young people to have this protocol, it means as entrepreneurs, as business owners, young people who will be able to have a say, will play an active role in the whole conversation. Without such a protocol, I would assure you it would be business as usual, whereby when initiatives like this come, you realize the big multinationals, the big corporations are the ones that are going to benefit from it, obviously because they have advantage, the resources, the access, the network, and what have you, to take advantage of these opportunities. But businesses and SMEs owned by young people, by their nature, are constrained, by a lot of challenges: capital, capacity, awareness, business development skill, which I hope having this protocol will ensure that as we progress, continue to implement the AfCFTA, these challenges, inhibitions that will naturally inhibit young people and prevent us from young entrepreneurs from actively participating in the process, will eventually get to participate and benefit from the immense economic opportunities that this trade area brings to us. Talking about your second question on whether or not I'm involved, as a stakeholder on AfCFTA conversation in my country, Nigeria, I will say, no, actually. The only time I have participated in any engagement, a national level engagement, was when I participated sometime last year in a sensitization program by the the National AfCFTA Secretariat. But even that, the question is in what capacity did I participate? I do participate in a lot of AfCFTA engagement, but that's mostly at continental level. It's quite ironic. And why? Because of the nature of the work I do as a journalist, and the nature of the focus, of my platform, which essentially is reporting issues around trade integration. So you realize when I find myself around in this high level, events on AfCFTA, I am mostly there as a journalist, not as an entrepreneur. So it's sad to say that, despite the role, I would say, my platform, African Newspaper, and myself have been playing in terms of creating awareness about the AfCFTA at continental level. When it comes to the national level, we are almost nowhere to be found. And myself as an entrepreneur, I've never been engaged in any way, in the discussions about the AfCFTA. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam, your remarks, your answer, especially for the second question, confirms our findings when we did the scoping study report, to the extent on how youth, women, as the biggest stakeholders in Africa, were involved in the initial stages of CFTA negotiation. And I think this one, CEO will take it upon, like, the governments should involve youth, private sector as the biggest stakeholders. As I conclude with our speakers, let me pose a question to Innocent. Innocent, your entrepreneur who is saying that you want to move your things, your organic products from South Africa to Zimbabwe, to Gabon, to Uganda. But how much in terms of skills, knowledge, do you know about CFTA, especially the relevant protocols, the relevant provisions, like the rules of origin, the Pan-African payment system, etc. So as an entrepreneur, do you feel you have a gap to trade under CFTA that was opened last year in January?
Yes, definitely. I do believe that I've got, the experience as a business person, as an entrepreneur, to be able to fill some of the gaps that I've already seen, having interacted with various people across the continent, to fill the gaps that exist in producing high-value foods, high produce value foods. But of course, I can never say that I know everything there is to know about the AfCFTA. But thanks to YouLead Africa and of course the MSTCTC, I was one of the people that were part of the bootcamp last year, Africa's inaugural business leaders and policymakers summer bootcamp, which was focused on the AfCFTA, which really catapulted my career in being able to access the different parts of the continent that I was previously not able to do. You know, and I'm currently working on a project that I'm planning to implement in the east of Africa. And had it not been for that opportunity, I definitely would have not known the extent of the opportunities and the extent of the gaps that, you know, we as young people need to be able to close. So I am, of course, upskilling myself with the various short courses that are readily available online about the agreement and various other agreements of the AU that support me as an entrepreneur and as a community developer. So I can definitely not say that I know everything there is to know about it, but you know, in my own way, I am ensuring that I'm closing the knowledge gap that I currently have. And another way that I've been able to do that is learning from other people that are already trailblazers when it comes to the agreement. So, you know, I piggyback on the knowledge that they have and learn actually on the ground while watching them implement and advocate, you know, for the implementation of the agreement, whether it's regionally or nationally. And just to touch on one of the questions that you had posed previously, there is a huge challenge in getting access or being able to participate, you know, in the conversation or in the negotiation process in my country in particular. And, you know, recently I was fortunately invited by the African Women Agribusiness Network and the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations to participate in an event that discussed exactly that. And, you know, how do we ensure that women, one, are aware of the opportunities that are open to them through the agreement, and just to find out what are the challenges that women such as myself, you know, small holder farmers are presented with in trying to access you know, the instruments and other stakeholders that can help facilitate their growth in the continent. So, you know, of course, you can't sit and expect opportunities to fall on your lap. I think one has to be very aggressive when you want to advocate for something that is very important to you. So, you know, you have to be able to go and find the AU representative in your own country to let them know that, look, you know, you're passionate about the agreement, you're passionate about youth and women development, and know how you can offer your skills and your knowledge to be able to, you know, move Africa to what we want. And that's the role that I've done. Because, you know, I've seen that some of the challenges that are affecting meaningful participation of young people in, you know, AU-related work and the work that we're all trying to do through the agreement is the information gap, you know. So you know, people don't have the information that they need to be able to participate. And you obviously have connectivity issues like, you know, I do myself right now, where I'm sitting in the dark and I'm limited in just how much I can be able to connect with other people. So I think where we are, everybody has a role to play. And, you know, I'm an advocate for starting with what you have where you are. But I must say that one of the opportunities that really catapulted my career in this area of being able to trade within the continent has definitely been the bootcamp that I participated in innovation.
Thank you, Nanda. Let me thank you, and also your answer. Also, it's you know, it's related to Adam's answer called in regard to government involving youth in these initial processes of negotiation, but also we should look for our chief negotiators at country level, and we ask them how far, how to trade, and where do I get information. As I conclude with the speakers, let me quickly in 1 minute, Adam, as an entrepreneur from Nigeria in media and communication, journalism, I know you want to extend your service to another country. How much, in terms of knowledge and skills, how much do you know about CFTA, especially trading under CFTA?
Thank you very much, Moses. I would say locally for me, but this is I'm an exception, so I shouldn't be used, I think, as a yardstick. to measure how much young people know about these things. Like I've said earlier, I've written very extensively, I researched very extensively about the AfCFTA. But why did I do that? Did I do that in my capacity as an entrepreneur? No, but I did that mostly in my capacity as a journalist. So the fact that I can claim having some knowledge about the free trade area is largely because of my professional work as a journalist, not because I'm an entrepreneur. Perhaps if I was in another sector, entirely different sector, maybe like Nandi, if I was in the food and agro-business industry, I might not have known anything about it. And the kind of my kind of business is one that is already continental. You know, so and by its nature, because it is an online business, there's you know, those barriers, non-tariff barriers that affect will largely affect young people in terms of moving their businesses across borders. I would say I'm not to a large extent affected by them. The only way I think I might be affected by that is payment systems. And I hope the Pan-African payment systems, which was launched earlier in the year by the AfCFTA Secretariat and Afrexim Bank, will really help solve that. But in terms of physical challenges, like Nandi has explained, she has been experiencing, I'm one of the few exceptional entrepreneurs who are not going to be affected by this. But the thing is, majority of young people, young business owners around the continent who deals in goods, not services, like I do, are definitely facing these barriers. Infrastructure, like she said, is a big issue. Communication even is an issue, and what have you. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Adam, for your response. Let me end this session, especially the speakers, and I open the second session of our dear participants who would love to, to ask questions, to give gratitude, support. But let me end this with JB, John Bosco, the Executive Director. What is the key role played by EABC or advocating, EABC advocates? So what is your role in involving youth and women as the biggest stakeholders in the entire CFTA negotiation process?
Yeah, thank you, Moses. As you know, Moses, EABC is the voice of the private sector across the region. So what we have done as EABC, we've constituted the Women and the Youth platform and empowered that platform with digital tools to access the right information on the CFTA. And you Ebre shared our My Isoko platform that is going to showcase and promote the products that youth and women are involved in too. The second, what we have done, we have also developed a tailor-made sensitization program for the youth and women in the business, also to be able to benefit from the CFTA. You're also aware that we've been pushing for an SME charter at the Council of the Minister, and that charter provides a number of opportunities with regard to the government procurement to ensure that once there is a procurement that is being publicized by the government, a certain percentage proportion is given to youth and women. So that is one of what we are pushing under the SME charter to ensure that we don't marginalize the interest of the youth and women. We have also solicited the youth and women perspective. Of course, we participate fully in the negotiation process, and the voice of the youth is always very paramount. And again, having the desk, a very dedicated desk, taking care of the interests, the needs, the questions, and the challenge of the youth, it is very paramount. Finally, is the trade finance that I'm pushing, engaging a number of banks, including Afrexim Bank, to have a dedicated a dedicated facility for women and youth is also very critical to address the issue of access to finance. Lastly, maybe to share with all the participants and the panelists, when you look at the way CFTA is crafted, it's a framework, it's a continental framework. But the implementation is done at the national level. And that is the key to underline for the interest of the participants that we need to engage our government. YouLead, we need to mobilize and sensitize at the national level, not at the regional level, but we need to cascade this information to the national level. We need to take it to our government. We need to engage at the national level. That is very, very, very critical. We need also to mobilize our donors, our funders to ensure that they support youth groups, youth clusters at the national level. As countries are developing CFTA implementation strategy, the voice of the youth and the component related to youth must be within in their strategy. I submit, Moses. Thank you very much.
Thank you too, and thank you, Nandi. Thank you, Adam. Let me go to our second session, which is engaging with the participants. And you might be having questions. What you do, you raise your hand. There is that option on the Zoom. Then you briefly ask a question. It can be dedicated to a particular participant, I mean a particular discussant or panelist. Or you can drop your question in the chat box. So the question and answer session is open. Now you can answer and you can or ask a question, or you can add as a clarification. You can even supplement. And we have few minutes to end this call. I know, like in East Africa, it's now coming to 8, and in Southern Africa coming to 7, and some of you have had a very heavy day. Allow me to recognize Mr. Hellert, who is tuning in from UK, and who is a part of the African diaspora. Hellert, do you want to say hi in 20 seconds? If you're still online.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay, I won't put my camera on. I'm not just appropriate, but I thank you for inviting me to this call, and very, very, very interesting. And as I say, I just listening only, and there's so much things I'm seeing, and it'd be nice to actually get involved with what you guys are doing there, because as I said briefly, what we're doing here, well, globally, something we can see as a collaboration to help what you are doing there. Even the speaker spoke a while ago. We have somebody in Tanzania who's got 500 acres of sesame seed, and what he's doing is really helping the country by giving 70% of profits to the farmers, the majority of the lion's share to the farmers, because he wants to help the country. So these kind of people we're in collaboration with. There's so much going on, but again, I'm just listening only this time, just to sort of say, introduce myself, say hi, and we'll definitely keep in touch.
Thank you. Thank you. Harad has been inviting me in several platforms where they are organizing the African diaspora to come and invest back in Africa. And those who have never been even to Africa, their children, and we are organizing their children to come in YouLead Summit, where they will interact with so for the first time to be in Africa and see how it is. Let me go to, I can see 2 hands. I will start with Oriem and then John. Let the question be precise. Let the question, you can address this to any particular panelist. Oriem, you can open your mic and ask.
Okay, thank you so much, Moses and YouLead, for this great initiative. Edson Orema, my name, from Uganda. Yes, the free trade area is something that sometimes when it is being discussed, I see a lot of hope in it, because I know it's going to help us. Especially currently in Uganda, we have high and the skyrocketing prices of commodities. And if we look into the prices in our neighboring countries like DRC, Congo, Kenya, Rwanda, prices of commodities are relatively low. Now, if this agreement is signed, I think it's going to be a boost for us. Like in such situations, we can even cross and go to those countries and get what we want to support us. Then, to you, Moses, I know as Uganda, we have a lot of law reforms currently. I don't know whether some of these law reforms are not going to affect the implementation of the free trade agreement. Then to the panelists, I know these are guys who have already started up something and they have where they are starting from. So I don't know what a platform or what initiative have different government in all African countries have come with to support young or the youths, especially who are in small and medium enterprises, to also make them meet some of the minimum requirements to be candidate to participate in this trade thing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Liam. Let me invite John to ask. Then I will allow the panelists to answer. John, Johannes.
Thank you very much, Moses. I'm John Johannes, the Executive Director of the Nile Youth Development Actions. And mine will be just a complementing point, not actually a question, but it will sound like the point that was raised by Adam earlier, that how we wish the youth and women protocol are different. But since we have this process initiated, it's fine. But our hope is, because when we talk about youth and women, they are different. And one protocol can't fit all. I don't know how it's going to be, but we wish to be part of the process, because from the youth perspective, we are looking for a protocol that communicate with our national policies on youth development, for instance. And also we have regional policies like the East African Youth Policies, and other regions also have a special consideration for young people. So mixing both, I don't know how it's going to be, but we are hoping there will be those elements where the protocol communicate with the national policy that we have on youth development, for instance, because the lack of communication of those policies will create a contradicting approach and it will create the difficulties of implementing those policies. So that is the only compliment that I'm seeing, because young people are the majority in the continent. That is a known fact. So, I don't know how it match, but it is hard to hear about youth and women policy in our local countries. Like we have policies for youth empowerment, we have policies for women empowerment. So we are hoping protocol on youth and development and youth and women also can consider that. But in our engagement, we hope we will get a platform for us to raise those concerns. Otherwise, thank you very much. And I appreciate the point that we raised by the panelists on creating different youth platform and awareness and sensitization. These are the key in domesticating the AfCFTA.
Thank you, John. John, we work closely with him as he coordinates our CFTA activities in the Horn, in the Northern and the Horn of Africa. There is a question for you. I will come for the Youth Advisory Council, but there is a question in the chat and it is directed to EABCCO, and it is from Franklin Mireri. Question to EABC CEO. In your interactions with the CFTA Secretariat, does the business community in East Africa and Africa feel confident that the CFTA Secretariat and national state parties currently have the capacity, staffing, and agency needed to support the entire private sector value chains in Africa to fully harness all the protocols once they are in place? John, you're muted. If you could.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Moses. And I want to again thank Franklin and the participants for raising a very valid and important question. Maybe on the preparedness and readiness of the private sector in the EAC. Let me say that the beauty that our private sector, both at the regional level and national level, we've been involved. We've taken a proactive, as a previous speaker mentioned. We couldn't sit and wait that everything will be brought on your plate, and then your role is just to eat. So what we did, we got involved from initial stage of the negotiation. And what Franklin is saying is true. There are a number of engagements that have been happening. We've been sensitizing our members on rules of origin, on a duty remission scheme, on customs management, on how are you prepared. Looking at the number of challenges, even today we had a webinar on transport and logistics. Is our transport and logistics going to enable our business to take disadvantage? So I would say that to respond to you quickly, that we've been fully involved. Of course, readiness requires a lot. It requires a lot of fundamentals to be in place. Again, you need a very strong customs engagement. You need to be clear in terms of rules of origin. You need to be clear in terms of the products. How are you prepared in terms of value chain? So this is an ongoing work we are doing as the ABC. To ensure that our private sector is prepared to take advantage. So as a previous speaker mentioned, the key is that we need to invest heavily in raising awareness. What does this agreement offers to our members? That is very critical. Maybe let me quickly respond to other questions, Moses, just so that I allow others. One is on the question raised by John. On whether to emerge the protocol on youth and women, whether it is the right thing. As I mentioned, either to separate them or to combine them. There has been a debate, a very interesting debate across the continent. Again, some of the views are saying no, we need to separate to give a youth protocol a high level of importance. The same for the women. But my view is that when you look at the traditional trade agreements, trade policies, they have neglected both youth and women. So it is important that now within this new agreement, at least has recognized, given the prominence, the voice and interest. So at the moment we could have them merged or working together because they face a similar challenges. As I mentioned, the issue of trade information, the issues of access to finance, they cut across to both youth and women. So it doesn't do a harm really to negotiate this protocol concurrently, but all the elements, what is important is to ensure that all the elements that pertain to the youth are included, are weaved in. The same for the women. So the last component that raised by Oriema from Uganda, the price differentials across the region. And these are factors that are very important. Again, the agreement is very clear because it is setting what we call a level playing field. So you will not have a kind of a price differential. If you are buying matoke in Rwanda or buying it in Uganda, it will be the same prices because the level playing field is there for you to have access to goods and services. So that let me leave it there, Moses, and I want to again thank the participants for raising such interesting questions.
All right, thank you. And interesting conversation is in the chat. I can see Nazipo saying, this is a good conversation, answers many questions, thank you. However, matching them, women and youth, I think she meant the protocol creates another problem where more focus is given to female youth neglecting male youth. And it has been also an argument that that women issues, when you compare, if you merge, they will swallow the youth. But as JB has said, experts say if you solve a youth challenge, you will solve also the women challenge, because they cut across. Before I bring in Adam and Nandi, the Independent Council had the hand. Is there? Do you still want to ask, or what you wanted to ask has been answered?
Thank you so much, Moses, and thank you, colleagues, for the sharing these amazing thoughts around AfCFTA. So my name is Emolot Alan David, and I chair the Advisory Council. And what maybe I wanted to supplement on is that the ED raised some very critical component when he mentioned that on the AfCFTA implementation. So currently, of course, the overall discussions on the AfCFTA seems to be centered at the continental level, but the agreement itself, the implementation is actually at the country level. And I just wanted to give, of course, to share these opportunities that what we do as an advisory council, something that actually we are ensuring that our women and youth in trade actually participate in these engagements at the country level. So what we do as a council, we have actually structures in currently 44 member states that whose roles are mainly to ensure that this youth participation is institutionalized at each member state. And the whole idea of the whole goal of these chapters is to ensure, number one, is to ensure that there is youth ownership, something that is lacking from the beginning, ever since the AfCFTA discussions and the AU brokered it. Youth and women were not engaged. And so that lack of youth ownership is something that if it's not fully harnessed, or if it's not fully achieved at these stages of implementation, it will be a big challenge. So what we have as these structures, and the structures are mainly focused, number one, to engage our African women and youth in each member state. Number two, of course, is to ensure they aid the implementation processes. Because again, in the structure, we work with different players, youth in government, and that is young youth members of parliament, youth in SMEs, youth in ministries, government ministries like the Ministry of Sports and so on, to ensure that they actually participate. So maybe I will leave the links on the chat for those who are on this call and are not part of the structures. But I see maybe those champions who are also in this call can actually leave, if you're in different chapters, kindly leave your contacts on the chat so that our youth who are not in those chapters and in your country can actually reach out. That is something I think I wanted to compliment. But indeed, there is more that needs to be done at the country level to ensure that actually the negotiators and the ministries recognize these youth institutions and invite them to participate in the process.
Thank you, Emrod. Thank you, Emrod, and thank you, Ekoyaka, for bridging that gap, for coming in to do capacity building and disseminate information on CFTA. As we conclude, I know Adam and Nandi want to respond, so let's do this. As you respond, you can give your concluding remarks. Let me start with Nandi.
Okay, thank you very much, Moses. So I just want to touch on the question that the first participant or question had. I think it's Oriema, sorry if I mispronounced your name. One of the questions, one of the questions that he raised was, what are we currently doing in our various countries and regions? So as part of the African Youth Business Council, along with another member from the SADC region, Unozipo, she actually tabled a suggestion that we come together and we formulate interventions for young people so that we ensure that, we close the compliance gap and we close the knowledge gap that I was talking about. So what we are currently working on as a region, engagements with young people, where we're going to be looking at business modeling and planning, logistics and procurements. How do you navigate that, with the AfCFTA in the background? And, what is innovative entrepreneurship and how do you leverage the opportunities that tech is providing for us. So those are the current things that we are doing, because obviously youth participation must not be limited to only drafting and formulation of processes, but we as young people need to be part of the implementing structure. And in closing, what Unozipo mentioned in the chat is very important. I believe that there's a greater power in a dual gender intervention system, because in approaching societal challenges in this way, no one is left behind. And it's been in my experience that when we follow this approach, then we prevent a lot of the issues that we see now, where there's the one gender being completely overlooked, which is what has been happening to women and particularly young people. So in the interventions that we're coming up with, we've seen this being done so well by YouLead, where, they involve young people from the inception of the ideas to the draftings, to, the various refinements and the amendments of the various interventions and solutions that can be implemented across the continent. So I think moving forward, when we are looking to bringing the change for the Africa that we want, we must be cognizant not to leave anybody behind, and to ensure that people not only understand what the end goal is, but what they also have to contribute to the development that we all want to see the continent shaping towards. Thanks.
Thank you, Nandi. Thank you for for your valuable inputs and for your conclusive remarks, especially when you touched on the Africa we want. And as YouLead, we are organizing also a big virtual event that will happen likely in August or September, where we'll bring the whole Africa youth to give and tell out the voices on the Africa they want. Let me come to Adam, then Adam, you can respond, then you give your conclusive remarks in 2 minutes.
Thank you so much, Moses. I want to respond to Rema and
Adam, could you come near your mic?
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
me?
Yes.
Thank you so much, Moses. I wanted to respond to what Rema and their brother John said. Rema, I think, was asking about how some of us were able to get involved in these processes and acquire the information, and understanding that we have of the processes. My advice is these days, you don't wait for people, for your governments, as much as we need these governments to get us involved in this process. But my advice is that you don't wait for anybody to bring you on board in these kinds of discussions and efforts. As young people, we must create, for ourselves the opportunities through platforms like this. These days, meetings are no longer physical, just physical. They are either hybrid or virtual. So engage with these processes. Involve yourself in groups such as the Africa Under 40 CEOs and Entrepreneurs Network. And also, very importantly, ICOYACA, the Independent Advisory Council, Youth Council on AfCFTA, whose main mandate is to promote awareness, youth engagement on the AfCFTA. I would advise young people on this call to leverage these opportunities and become active players in this process, and not necessarily wait for governments and other stakeholders to get us involved in the processes. Regarding the controversial issue of the Youth and Women Protocol, I'm still of the opinion that if we can have our way, I know this is quite a tall order, because it is an AU Assembly decision. That means it was a decision taken by our heads of state and government, and changing it will also have to go back to that, and it's quite a tall order. Yet, like I have always said, allowing the youth protocol to be combined with the women's protocol endangers the youth protocol, because the women's agenda is very powerful. The gender agenda is quite a powerful one. So for young people to have the desired attention for our own interests, to be well protected, I still strongly feel that having a separate youth protocol is the way to go. Of course, like Mr. Bosco was saying, this is even the first agreement that has this kind of protocol, special recognition to women and youth. But we are of course appreciative of the effort of formulators of the AfCFTA and the stakeholders, the policymakers. Yet we feel if it is possible, we really need to have not just a chapter in the protocol for youth, but also a standalone protocol for young people in the AfCFTA. And then I saw finally somebody posted a comment about the Pan-African payment systems on the chat box saying it's a great initiative. Indeed it is, but it's a work in progress. They are still trying to onboard central banks of our respective countries and also onboard individual banks. I know in West Africa, the effort has gone far. In Ghana and Nigeria, many banks have been onboarded, onto the platform, but it will take time for this thing to become, a continent-wide thing, for us to be able to send money, for example, for someone from Tanzania to be able to send money to Ghana without any challenges, without any, having to grapple with the currency variations, the differences. If for example, you're sending money from Kenya, you can send it in Kenyan shilling, it arrives in Ghana in Ghanaian cedis, and vice versa. So the changes, the variations we have, when using international currencies, the hard currencies like USD, pound sterling, and euro won't be there. So indeed, is a great initiative. But like I said, it's a work in progress. All we need to do is continue to engage with these stakeholders, continue to ask questions about these initiatives, continue to be concerned about it, because if we don't, then you realize this kind of lofty initiatives may not eventually see the light. So in conclusion, the AfCFTA is an agreement for young people, and as young people, we must endeavor to engage, to participate in these processes in any way we can. We shouldn't wait for anybody to involve us in these conversations. We should, in as much as possible, try and engage with the process in any way we can, and assure us if we do that, eventually our wishes will become true. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. Before I bring JB, let me also go to the conversation. In the charts, I can see the observation by Ngwenya. Hope I haven't murdered your name, but my observation is that merging the policies and youth issues is critical. Most of the trade policies across all economic blocks have not been sensitized to the youth and or have neglected youth. Oriema, does the initiative have some specific favor consideration for women, especially those in informal sector who might not have able to meet requirements due to financial complications? I think that one has been answered by Mr. Bosco when he talked about mobilizing financial institutions to offer women and youth in cross-border trade finances that doesn't need bureaucratic requirements and these collateral securities. Dr. Iliana kindly joined the CFTA Youth Advisory Council for further youth-related CFTA discussion. That is, I think, from Ekoyaka. Charles Oyamo. Hi everyone, Charles Oyamo from Nairobi, Kenya. I have a thought. The Pan-African payment and settlement system is very promising. I think the CFTA and for the purposes of this conversation, EABC should be looking at ways of allowing fintech startups to build on top of this underlying infrastructure. Building for the African market from the scratch is a very hard job. Kindly make it easier, even if that means having conversation with founders and establishing procedures and eligibility criteria. Well noted. And thanks, and also Adam reacted on it, built on it. This is Hellad. We are a group of diasporians who are keen to leave the UK and invest in Africa. We have found an opportunity that will help fund projects and living expenses. This is a global project. Please send me your details. Hellad, I will charge you for advertising. but you are welcome. Africa is for you and is big and will accommodate you. Then Hello Africa, that is the Koyaka, Dependent Continental Youth Advisory Council, CFTA, and we are mandated to facilitate the institutionalization of youth. Thank you, Koyaka. And Koyaka is the firstborn and the first child of YouLead. Koyaka, all right. Thank you, everyone. Before I bring in JB, we are going to end it in this style. Okay, then. I know someone who is where he is. It is like 3 or 4 a.m. But he has played a role in YouLead. So I want him to say hi in 1 minute. Then you go back to your sleep. Ivan Atuyambe. If you can unmute and say hi, then we conclude. I can see you online. Okay, as he's
still awake, not sleeping.
Oh, all right. Yes.
Good evening, colleagues, and thank you, Moses, for organizing this important session ahead of the ongoing consultations on youth and women in trade protocol of the AfCFTA. And also allow me to thank my senior brother, Mr. John Bosco Carissa, the EAC Business Council CEO, for sparing time to spend time with the young traders and trade enthusiasts from Africa and probably beyond. It's very humbling how to see how we cooperate and work together. My brother JB, thank you for sharing your knowledge and wisdom. I see you are still in the office at this time. That's serious commitment and servant leadership. Allow me to also thank the other panelists, my brother Adam, the CEO and founder of African Newspaper, and JB. Adam is doing a good job with his online newspaper, publishing and promoting trade news or news on trade in Africa. We can certainly work with him to publicize some of our AABC achievements across the continent. And also my sister, the other panelist that I don't remember the name of. Moses, you can remind me.
Nandi.
Yeah?
Nandi,
yes. Thank you very much as well. But I don't want to say so much. I'm in a country between Asia and Russia, whatever, Europe. It's 3 or 4 hours ahead of East Africa and most of Africa. So yes, I think just without saying so much now, I wish to thank you, young people and young trade leaders from all over Africa, for showing interest in this important project of the Agenda 2063, the Africa we want, the one African common market under the CFTA. And this is our agreement, this is our project. Many of the political leaders who have agreed to form this one African economic community will not be there when it is actualized. So it is us, it is ours, it is our moment. Let's continue keeping interested and keep in touch with Moses so that you don't miss out on the many, many opportunities coming up. We are going to have another continental round of consultations with the Economic Commission for Africa going forward next month. And I think it is very important that you participate and you make it yours so that this protocol will be relevant to you, and also participate in the Independent Advisory Council activities. And Adam is also with Moses leading the CEO's network, which is quickly going to transform into an apex body for youth-led businesses according to the AU Commission. So yeah, I thank you, and again urge you to keep your eyes on our social media platforms, send us an email, and let's work together to build the next Africa. Once again, thank you, my brother JB and the other panels for sparing time, and we look forward to cooperating more with you, taking African youth as the center of AfCFTA implementation. Thank you once again. Moses, bye. Back to you.
Okay, thank you, Ivan. By the way, Nandi is our bootcamp graduate from Southern Africa.
Oh, so, wonderful.
Yes. So before I bring in JB, let me end this in style. We have been speaking English. I will go back to Nandi and Adam. So you will say goodbye in your mother tongue. Then also Ivan will come and say goodbye in his mother tongue. Then all of you participants, you say goodbye in your mother tongues in the chat. Let me go back to Nandi and say bye in your mother tongue, and you say this is what it is called. Maybe is it Kosa, is it Zulu, is it what?
Okay. Ngiyabonga nisaleni kahle. That's goodbye in Zulu.
Thank you. Adam?
Okay, Sanjima, and that's goodbye in Hausa.
Come back at your mic.
Say Anjima, and that's goodbye in Hausa. See you later.
All right, Ivan. Okay, all right. Let me now invite JB to give his concluding remarks and also say goodbye in your mother tongue. Others are typing in the chat. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Moses. Thank you, Ivan. Allow me to thank all the panelists for their contribution for this engagement meeting. Really, EABC is behind you. I'm behind you in terms of this very critical and noble initiative. So the key message in my concluding remarks, and I want to encourage the youth to continue sharing your experience, sharing good lessons learned. I want to appreciate Nandi. That is a very, very good experience you've shared to the entire African youth in terms of connectivity challenge. I picked issues of connectivity that you've been grappling with. That is something we are taking on board. Issues of our payment system. How do we bring fintech on board? I'll take it up with the YouLead. So the issue of engagement at the country level, I saw Jacques Rod was asking, do we have youth YouLead in Rwanda? And maybe that's something Moses and Ivan need to take to ensure that YouLead is represented in all countries. I know you are there, but who is your focal point in each and every country at the continental level? So those are some of good insight. Let's raise the voice of the youth across the continent. This is the right moment for the youth. You need to take a proactive role in the CFTA, and you are doing it. You are doing it. Your voice is being heard at the policy level, at the technical level, at the grassroots level. Let's regain the place we have as the youth. So at the continental level, at the regional level, at the national level, it is high time that you take your rightful place in the integration process. With that, again, murakoze cyane. That is what we say in our language. Ijoro ryiza.
Thank you, JB. I know you are multilinguistic. Thank you, Jean Claude. We have our focal person in Rwanda, Angie Umuton. You can privately text me, then or reach out to any YouLead staff. You will get her contact. Allow me to thank everyone who came, especially our panelists, Mr. John Bosco Carissa, Nandi Innocent, and Adam, then our loyal participants who always come for Unplugged series. Allow me also to thank Fiona, who is coordinating the Unplugged series for this initiative. And I thank you, as Ivan has said, there are more initiatives that are coming, especially the regional consultations on CFTA that will be implementing or coordinating with the Economic Commission for Africa. And we'll again be getting in touch with you in our other initiative and activities that are coming. Thank you. Good night. Maybe Kemi, you can give us a YouLead song as we leave and we go to sleep. I wish we could have an overnight, but it cannot be. Good night and God bless you.
Africa.
He says, and I quote, problem is what? Is inevitable. However, the inevitable solution to the inevitable.
No.
Arakoze cyane.
None wo mu Rwanda ndamubona neza. Hello Moses.
Yes.
Wo mu Rwanda ndamubona ne.
Okay.
Can you share with me the
we shape young men and women with the pillars, with the future. Here we are, let's join together with ability to change communities, with love, with peace, to respond to our need, to call for unity. Africa, hear me cry, never leave me alone. As I see light in a brighter future, let's join hands for youth and women. Let's join hands for youth and women.